clean little pigs.
They're darling.
And they're painted especially for you guys today to match my shirt. Oh, not really. I didn't know what I was wearing, but I liked the blue. So, all right. So we're going to talk about relationships tonight, and we're going to dig in. And the thing about this is, usually I have like in my head an idea of what I'm talking about, what I'm going to talk about. And Spirit really, they're filling my ideas in my head, but they're really wanting me to stay open for a lot of questions. So what I want you to stay open to and start thinking about is, what questions do you have? They can be personal, they can be just philosophical, they can be any of those things, but start thinking about your questions, because I really want, that's what tonight's supposed to be about in a big way, so that you can get your questions answered about your own relationships. And there aren't any relationships that are going to be off the table. This is family relationships, colleague, work relationships, brother, sister, mom, dad, those are going to be big ones. Exes, currents, any of those kind of relationships, that's what we're delving into. And how those in the past have affected our present. And what is unconditional love versus what is conditional love or relative love, whatever you choose to call it. Those are some of the topics we're going to delve into. Does that make sense? Everybody comfortable? Anybody have any questions right out of the gate about me or how this works or what I'm doing standing in front of you? Yeah.
Can I record you?
Yeah, you can. So we're going to be recording this hopefully for YouTube. I am feeling gratitude for the people who are seekers, because I'm a seeker, and I'm feeling gratitude for that. And I'm like, I need to give all these people seeking, I need to just give them something. And the people who really value this, and the people who come here and show up. So what we're trying to do, and cross fingers this works, is record this entire thing tonight to gift it to everybody through the newsletter, so that the whole recording will be in a spot where you can just go click it. So that's the idea tonight. It's all about giving. It's all about love. Make sense? Yeah, of course. So if you ask a question, we won't see your face, right? We'll only see the back of your head. But if you ask a question, try to speak up, and I'll try to remember to repeat it. I'm a horrible rememberer of things. So you might want to yell at me, especially you guys in the back, repeat the question, because I want to make sure it records. Does that make sense? Everybody comfortable with that? All right. All right, so let's go ahead and dig in. And where I want to start first is more about love. And I want to dig into talking about, because we're all seeking love and we all want love, and some of us have even experienced love, and some of us want to give love, and some of us want to receive love, and some of us want both. But we go into this idea of unconditional love because we're human beings. We are spiritual beings. We are deserving of love. We deserve it. Not because we've done anything, not because we've earned anything, not because we're making money, not because we're not making money, not because of who we are, what our degrees are. We deserve it because we were born. The end. That's it. We deserve it because we're born. And we learn conditional love because that's what humans are mostly capable of. So we have a right to have unconditional love. We have a privilege to be a vessel for unconditional love. But we can't always give it, right? We want to, especially, you have kids. You so want to give unconditional love all the time. Yeah, and you're not going to do that. Today, the little boy, Mark's little boy, he's 8, Noah, and I adore him and I love him. And today, I ordered him this whole set of math and science videos because I'm like, you're going to be smart. You're going to memorize those multiplication tables with that hamster that is rapping them to you on the video screen. This is going to happen. So he gets the videos and he's like, oh, what is it? What is it? And I'm like, I did good because he's so grateful, right? And he opens them up and he goes, it's math. And I said, I know! It's a singing hamster. This is going to be fun. And he goes, stupid. And he like goes back and I'm like, wow, I've just fallen out of love. And I'm going to walk away and get myself some water and come back and go, wow, you should really try to be more grateful, and go on about my day. But in that moment, I did not go, I love that you're so ungrateful, because I'm human and we don't do that. That's unconditional love. We don't do that. Or we'd be these amazing doormats for everybody to walk all over if we stood in unconditional love all the time. We are humans. We are conditional. We are meant to be. The sad part of that coin, right, the other side of it is we are going to be loved mostly conditionally, and that is going to set us up for problems in all future relationships. Has anybody ever in here said, that's it, I'm going to be single and celibate the rest of my life, not doing it again? Yeah, me too. I said that a lot. It's like when you have a pet and you love it and the pet dies and you're like, I'm not doing that again. Yeah, because heartbreak equals you need a way to protect yourself from that. It equals this shutting down and closing down, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight is what do we do about that? How do we keep that open? And where do relationships come into play where we can really connect? Making sense so far? Okay. So if we can look at the truth that we are entitled to unconditional love, but we may not always be around someone who is capable of giving unconditional love all the time, because no one is, we are going to create or have created within us wounds. And when we come up with those wounds, we are going to start closing down, shutting off. And if you look at it in a couple term, right? Sometimes mom and dad, but if you look at it in terms of couples, spouses, romantic connections, then usually, you'll probably recognize this pattern, one becomes the pursuer and one becomes the withdrawer, the shutter downer. Any of you guys play either of those roles in your relationships? So just kind of raise your hand if you're a pursuer. And raise your hand if you're a withdrawer. Yeah, that's me. I'm like, withhold, not gonna do it. So these will attract each other, right? But really you can go, well, I'm in the wrong because I'm shutting down and I shouldn't shut down. Well, the other person's like, well, God, I'm so tired. I'm pursuing you all the time. Like, I'm doing the work here. I am going to be a martyr for love and keep on doing this. Really, both of you are in a pattern that doesn't work because what's happening is you're both trying to control, and we try to control what we're afraid of. One's trying to control the outcome by pursuing, and one's trying to control the moment by running away. So there is no right in that scenario. You're both just scared. You're both giving into fear. If I withdraw and withhold, then this fear, I can't be hurt again. Shutting down, you can't get me in here. You cannot get me in here. And if I'm coming for you, right, I'm afraid of rejection because that's where that comes from. So I need to make sure that you have me. I got to get you back because I can't be rejected. Makes sense? So just think for a moment if you're on one of those sides or the other, and you may flip-flop back and forth at times because we tend to, with our mates, do a dance. We want to lean forward. Mark and I call it leaning forward and leaning back. And when we first started discovering this pattern, he likes to be the pursuer. I'm going to tell on you. He likes to be the pursuer, and tell on myself. He likes to pursue, right? Because that he doesn't want to be rejected. He wants to always have what he needs. And I like to withhold because I don't want to be smothered and I'm not going to be engulfed in anything. Need that independence, right? All you independent ladies, that comes from a wound too. We'll talk about that as well. So it's we noticed this thing, and he was like, I don't feel you. I don't feel you. Come back to me. Where are you? And I'm like, I don't know, but you're in my freaking space. Like, get out. Get back. And he's like, but I need you. If you'll just be warm, just give me what I need, it'll be all right. And I'm like, if you'll just back up, I can lean forward. And so we realized one of us would lean forward and one of us would lean back. And then there were times when I would try to lean forward and he was leaning back. And you know what? It doesn't work until you're both like this because you need the space. What does space create? Space creates intimacy. Without space, without difference, we can't have intimacy. And what do we want in our relationships? Oh, we want intimacy. Intimacy is connection. We all want connection. We want closeness. We can't have that without difference and without space. Because what is intimacy? Intimacy is, I see your differences and I love you anyway. That's what intimacy is. It's that full acceptance. I see where you are different and I love you anyway. And let's do that dance. If you don't have the differences and you're being engulfed or you're being pursued or you're withdrawing or withholding, you don't have the healthy space to create the intimate connection. Does that make sense? You guys with me? Okay, so let's look at the wound of parentals. They're so darn easy to blame, aren't they? I think they keep a lot of therapists in business. Any therapists in here? I know I see one. Yeah, okay, so two, right. So they keep a lot of therapists in business. Without your mom, therapist it wouldn't exist, the job title. Or in some cases, your dad, although it tends to be more the mom. And I have been seeing this huge mothering pattern. Actually, Dr. Fidel and I were talking about, amazing nutritionist back here, by the way, if you're looking for someone, raise your hand, say hello. So we've been talking about this pattern of allergies that we see. We see a lot of food allergies, a lot of gut problems. And I was like, you know what? I see it just comes back to the mama. I see this thread to the mama, and she is like, really? So we're talking about it. We're going to meet tomorrow and talk about it, which I'm super excited about. But if we trace this, and so I'm trying to like sit with it and go, okay, but why the mom? What is that? And so I'm like, okay, well, you're looking at the gut. What? Oh, the gut. Okay, so you got the belly button. That's the umbilical cord. That's the nutrients. That's whatever was in your mama, was in you. That's that sense of connection, that non-separation, that complete, not engulfment, but complete, I don't know, what's the word, attachment, you know, that attachment that you needed and she needed, and it was all healthy when you're in the belly, right? And then, so your first sense of separation is the cutting of that tie, sometimes in a hospital, sometimes under bright light, sometimes under duress or stressful circumstances. So if we think about the compassion we can give ourselves as infants in that space, that's traumatic, right? So the baby's brain, the infant's brain, may not remember that sense of separation or whatever happened right after birth, but the cells will, because the cells carry memory. Biology of Belief, if you haven't read that book, it's a good read, The Biology of Belief. The cells are carrying the memory, so it's in there somewhere, is that scared little baby of, if you separate me, I'm going to die. Those are my nutrients. What are you doing here? What's happening? That is in the body somewhere. So that fear of separation. And then I was reading, there's this study that was done, and up until a child is roughly 2 years old, and I'm so bastardizing that again because I am bad at memorizing things. So bad. So we'll just say 2. It could be 18 months. It could be 2.5. The mother and the child, typically the mother is a caregiver, not always, but they bond because the mother really, they produce the milk, right? Or they produce the bottle that feeds the kid, and they're usually the main nurturer. And they're giving to their kid. And the kid, if you were to put the baby in the mother's lap or the toddler in the mother's lap, and you put them both in front of a mirror, this is a scientific study, I'm not making this up. You put them in front of a mirror, and you put lipstick across the baby's cheek. The baby looks, and it sees the lipstick. What would you and I do if we saw lipstick on our cheek? Either A, that was a great makeout session, or B, we wipe it off. So mostly we wipe it off. So we would wipe it off. What does the baby do? Any guesses?
Touch his mom's face?
Turn around and try to wipe their mother's cheek. They cannot separate their identity from their mother's. It is one and the same. The child's identity isn't that powerful? It is the mother's identity. So this whole thing comes down to, how are we mothered? So just think about your early experiences with your mother or with your main caregiver. Think about what that was like, and just, right? Give yourself some love for that, because my family, I have 2 older sisters, and they're both a mess. Bless them. That's what we say in the South, right? Bless their hearts. They like to tell me stories of my birth, which I was born at 11:59, like right at lunchtime. It's perfect. I like late in the day. That worked for me, I guess. And when they brought me into the room, my mother looked at me and said, "That is not my baby. I do not want that baby. That is not my baby." I had a head full of jet black hair and dark skin. And she was like, "You brought me the wrong baby." So right out the gate, how about some abandonment and rejection for you? I have issues. No, I have worked through them, but yes, they're there. So it's that sense of what happened. You know, if you want to really understand yourself and relationships, and your mother is still alive, or someone who knows those stories of your birth or right around your infancy, call up and ask them, what was it like when I was born? I like to ask my mom, like, what was it like in the womb? And she's like, oh my God, you were a total mistake. We didn't want you. You were totally unplanned. The pill doesn't work. Be careful. Like, it's that kind of, so I'm like, great. I got a lot to work with. Therapists love me. But it's that idea of that identification with the mother. It's where we get that from. So then we're looking at, how does that resonate in our gut? We have all kinds of food allergies. Dairy is a big, like if you have a dairy sensitivity, anybody in here, you do not have to raise your hand. Yeah, there are some in here. You are looking at, what's your relationship like with your mom? I know that's crazy, right? It is crazy, but that is what it is. And gluten is often another common one, especially coming up these days. And we're looking at some environmental sensitivities, but really we're looking at, we're looking again at the mama for those 2 big ones. Now, let's have compassion for the mama, because really we have to remember that I look at Noah and I'm like, because he lives with us full time, and I look at him and I'm like, I'm not his biological mother, but I know I am in some way like looking him up right now. And I try to forgive myself in every moment. Like today when I made a sarcastic comment about, oh, that sounds like gratitude, and I walked off, I'm like, I'm sure he'll talk to a therapist about that for a year when he's 25, or next week, whichever comes first. But it's that idea of, because we are human, we can't hold that unconditional love space. There are going to be those times when we, as parents, right, or our mothers as parents, misstep. They're frustrated. They got their own things. They're human too. So finding compassion and starting to really pull that relationship apart and finding compassion for them helps us understand, A, them, but B, us, really. It's about us, isn't it always? You guys with me so far? Isn't that fascinating? The whole mothering thing is getting me right now. And I was thinking about India, because India is a country in which you go to, and they call it the mother country. And they view mothers in India as deities. They really are very divinely worshipped and respected. And it's because of that idea of that's where you come from, that's your nurturing, that's your lineage, that's your upbringing, that's your milk source, it's your identity until you pull away from it, or it pulls away from you. All right, you guys have any questions at the moment? You thinking about your own relationships? Okay, so let me ask, I want to see exactly where to go because there's so many different directions. So let me just get, who of you came to really find out more about romantic relationships? Yeah, most of you. Okay, and who of you came to find out really about family patterns and family relationships? Okay, so what I'm hearing to start with is a soulmate piece, which I would not have tagged that as something to talk about, but let's do it. Some of you who work with me may already know this, so just close your ears and think about your own life for a minute. But I want to talk about soulmates, and I want to talk about what that is because it so pervades our ideas of relationship. We watch movies like The Notebook. Anybody seen The Notebook? Just for Ryan Gosling and no other reason. It's really hot in here, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh, that man. Okay, so we watched those movies, and I watched it because my parents set me down, and my parents are still happily married, and they hold hands and they make out, and it's like all these like really cute things, but also you're like, oh, God, you guys are so codependent. It's cute. So they sat me down and they were like, we want you to watch this movie. And I said, okay. And Dad and Mom are both like, this is us. This is us. And Dad looked at me and he goes, when we die, it's gonna be like this. Spoiler alert, they die in the end. So I watched this movie and I'm like, oh my God, if you die, you're both going at the same time? Don't do that to me. That's awful. So, but it's this idea of there is one person for you and you will not have happiness with anybody else. And Hollywood, we buy into that. Hollywood buys into that. A lot of the things that we do and buy into that idea of there is one right person out there. And if you just find that one right person, everything will fall into place and everything will be great. Because that one right person, has all the answers that you ever needed, and B, has the capacity to unconditionally love you the way you always knew you should be. Isn't that right? It's so wrong. It's so wrong. So really, what is a soulmate? Let's break it down in this way. Does everybody know what I mean when I say vibration? We vibrate at a certain level, right? Now within this vibration, we can go up or down. We can go down and we can go back up and be really like, whoa, it's great. And within this vibrational space, if we're on this chain of vibration, we're going to go up or down a little bit from moment to moment or day to day. But ultimately, we have this place and space where we typically tend to vibrate. And that will dictate who we hang around with, because we want like attracts like. So where we live, places that we frequent, it all has kind of a similar vibration. So when we hit that vibration that we hold for a space of time, however long that may be, some move fast, some move slow, but we hit that vibration, we are hitting a pocket of vibration that a lot of people hold who are also potential soulmates. What is a soulmate? A soulmate is simply this: someone who teaches you more about who you are. That's it. A soulmate can be a dog, a cat, a llama that you loved. I say llama because I'm begging for a puppy, and it just needs to be out in the open. We're going to go to therapy and talk about this because I want a puppy so bad. He does not. It's gonna come up. So, by the way, I saw a French bulldog on the way in. I changed my mind. Oh my God, it's so cute. But I did see, they are so cute. But I did see this picture of a baby llama. Have you guys ever seen a baby llama? Google it when you go home. Oh. And Mark's like, but they get big. I'm like, I don't care. Look how cute they are right now. Yeah, he goes, there will be poop in the backyard. I'm like, who cares? Look how cute. And I bet it's soft too. So I don't think we're getting a llama. Maybe if I ask for a llama long enough, I can get a bulldog. Or a Clumber Spaniel, because that is my other, I want one. Do you guys know what a Clumber is? Okay. Clumber? Spaniel.
I'm going to Google it.
Google it. Because Mark's like, I want a sporty dog, if he ever wanted a dog. No. They just carry whiskey. So really about dogs for just a minute, because I'm obsessed, is I want bulldog, fat, stubborn, just be you and let it all hang out. That's what I want. And I want the sloppy jaws and the soft, all those rolls. I love that. And Mark's like, I want a hunting dog and someone who can go running with me in the woods. You cannot run a bulldog. Someone to go running with me. And so I found a Clumber Spaniel, and it is this mixture of a hunting dog who will hunt and swim, and sloppy big face. They are so cute. They look like Falcor from Neverending Story. I'll swear to you, they're so cute. Okay, but I'd settle for a Frenchie, just let you know. So, about dog, what were we talking about? See, this is what happens.
Llamas. Soulmate.
Llamas and soulmates. So soulmates, we vibrate I usually don't do big tangents, but that's important and the dog needs to go in there. So we vibrate at this level where we have access to all these soulmates. And they can be parents, they can be children, they can be dogs, that's where it came from. They can be cats, it can be someone who is, it can be the owner of the bag lady that in that moment is our soulmate because she helps us know more about ourselves. It can be any of these things. It is where do we resonate, where do we learn more, where do we look deeper. That's about soul growth. That's about getting closer to unconditional love. That's about knowing and recognizing that is within you, because what are we learning through relationships are all the places where we stop the flow of love. That's what relationships exist for. So within this vibrational space, we may have, in terms of romantic access, hundreds, if not thousands, of potentials for soulmates. It's just, who are we resonating with in that moment? Who do we bump into in that moment? Who are we attracted to? Let's talk about attraction. Attraction happens because of the way, and this is what I believe, I have not read this anywhere, but I believe it happens because of the way, chemically, the chakra systems interact. So if my chakra system is kind of spinning in one way, right, my energy centers are spinning in one way, and I feel pulled to someone, their chakras are spinning in some way, whatever I have in mind can push her buttons, and whatever she's got in hers can push my buttons. We can activate each other's wounds. That's why we're attracted to people. That's where the chemistry comes in. Have you ever seen a person that you're like, they are stunning, they are perfect on paper, there is not a bit of chemistry there. They don't activate your system. They don't tell you they can push your buttons. So when you start digging into what that chemistry is, oftentimes you'll find the places where they can wound you, they can open your wounds back up and show you what they are. So for Mark and I, there's this undeniable chemistry, and sometimes, most of the time. And when we start digging into our family of upbringings, his family is very tight-knit. They like to, I'm being diplomatic, they like to be really close, but they don't want to really talk about anything deep. They don't want to dig in and put out what's out there, but they want to just be close and everything's fine, and they want to operate on this continuum of emotion that lies right here. My family is oh, I will call you out in a second. I will tell you what doesn't work, and I don't care if it hurts your feelings, and here's where it's coming from. And it's just out there. And so we operate on this system of highs and lows, and this idea of, I'm going to run away. I don't like what you said, so I'm going to go to India. Basically, that's really how we do. So we are really attracted to each other because I love to run away and he loves to stay. So we activate in each other that idea of I withhold, he comes forward, and that cycle gets played out again and again and again until we start really cleaning up the wounds that our families helped make, right? Or helped us see. Because we can come in with wounds too, if you believe that sort of thing, and we don't have to get into that, but they can be activated. So really understanding your family dynamics will help you understand your partnership. I'm really feeling the need to open up to questions, and I don't know why so early, but do you have questions right now? Who's got a question about your current relationship, something that's not working? Nothing? Yeah, what is it?
When you were talking about mothers before,
Yeah.
what about later in your life when you developed an allergy? So you were talking about gluten and dairy and all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What if it happens later in your life? You didn't always have it, but then all of a sudden you have it.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. I mean, a lot of times nowadays our kids are coming in with allergies. We're having a lot of kid allergies that are happening, but that's because our kids that are being born are a lot more sensitive. They're a lot more open. You can talk about rainbow children or crystal children or whatever. They're a lot more open. We were born a lot more dense. I don't mean that in that way, but we're born a lot thicker, and we had less access to our spiritual sensitivities. So now that we are starting to uncover those, the earth energy is changing, the vibrations that are coming down are changing, we're moving a lot faster, relationships are moving a lot faster, everything's going a lot faster. We're becoming more sensitive to what's around us. And as we become more sensitive, we start to uncover these things in the body that before our body was like, no big deal, we're dense, it doesn't matter. We're becoming less dense. We're becoming more permeated with light. In this day and age. So the more light we become, the more sensitive we become. We are, you know that saying, a canary in a coal mine? Did all of you know that saying? Because I didn't until Mark taught it to me. But he said, you're the canary in the coal mine. And I was like, A, why am I a bird? I don't like them. And B, what's the deal with the coal mine? And he said that in the mining days, they used to take canaries down, and if the canary died, then that meant there was like a gas leak or there was something in there that wasn't good. It would kill the canary because the canary is super sensitive. So nowadays, we are all becoming canaries, and we're all becoming really sensitive to our environments. So I think it's the more permeated we are with light, the more light being we become, the more sensitive we become, the more everything starts to irritate us, and the more we're being asked these days to heal. We were for a long time being asked to survive, right? To survive. And then came the advent of psychology, which isn't really that old. I mean, I look at the knowledge we have around psychology these days versus the knowledge my parents had around psychology, which was none. Not that it didn't exist, but they sure weren't reading up on Freud and Jung. And now we are. It's like a cultural part of, we want to study that. And there wasn't that advent, but I think with the advent of psychology, we're recognizing how relationships interplay into everything. We have a lot more knowledge to start to heal, and we're being asked to heal what is not whole. Make sense? That answer your question?
I usually have a question.
Yeah.
It's popped up.
Yeah.
So you were talking about like pushing forward and pushing back.
Yeah.
And my husband and I are both pushbackers.
Like withholders?
Yeah, like we like.
I'm mad and you're
we were
mad.
both- yeah,
Yep.
we were returned.
I've been in one of those
And
relationships.
this was many moons ago, or years, moons or years. And we had gone to therapy, and she said it's almost would be better if you were both exploders, because then you'd get it out. But I'm kind of like, I don't want to talk to you, and he's kind of like, well, I don't want to talk to you.
Yep.
And so we would not like speak. I mean, it would be cordial, but
Yep.
like it's totally a fake cordial. But what are your thoughts on the leaning? I mean,
If the
we're
pattern's
great
the
leaners
same?
now.
Yep.
But it's. I mean, we have to work
Yes.
to be leaners.
Yes.
Like I have to say, I feel this and I feel that, and he has to kind of
Yes.
say, like it's a very, like we have to say
Yes.
every day.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. And did you guys hear her question? You know, what do you do if you're both runners awayers? I
Or
love to
even
invent
both
words.
pursuers,
Or you're both
'cause
pursuers.
I don't know that feeling.
Yeah, so if you're both pursuers, I would imagine. Is anybody in a relationship like that? Both
I
pursuers?
feel like it would be like fiery though.
I feel you do flip-flop, but you do have a definite pattern and lean-to place that you typically go. But I would feel like if you were both pursuers all the time, you'd probably end up in more of an enmeshed relationship where you never said anything that bothered you. It would probably be a lot more codependent, I'm assuming is what that relationship would look like. But if you're both runners awayers, and I've been in a relationship like that, the challenge comes in it because what it is we're defaulting to a defense mechanism that we created as children to survive. We needed to run away and withdraw because at 7 years old, you don't have the power to go, hold on a minute, Mom. I need a boundary here. You don't. What do? You run to your room and slam your door. That's the only boundary you get. So, if you don't allow it, though. Right, so we learn that kind of behavior. And so if both of you are coming together and that's what you learned, then what happens is it's an immature, outdated way of coping with something. And so then you go into this place of one of you has to, at some point in time, be the bigger person. Here's what I say about if you have a partner who likes to withhold or run away. If they want space, allow them to take it. Allow them to be in the space that they create. I am giving you a handbook for me, my love. If the person is withdrawing instead of pursuing, because what does that do? When you have a person who withdraws and runs away, and then the person chases them, it says, hey, this coping mechanism works, keep doing it. It puts the withdrawer and withholder in control. So it's like, hey, don't do that. You know what I mean? Don't do that. Give them the space that they want. Let them experience fully the space that they want to have and see how long they like it. They will not like it very long. I promise. If I withhold and Mark just like sort of does his thing, it'd be like 10 minutes. I'd be like, okay, I'm really sorry. Let's talk about this. Right? I don't want that space. Right.
Watch out a boombox.
Exactly. Why aren't you playing this underneath my window? So it's that idea of what has to happen when both of you run away is once you experience that space, get clear on what it is that you want. Because where we kind of screw up in relationships is we get into this control center, which I'll call our third chakra, where we want to own everything and feel powerful. And we get hooked on being right. And we forget about being loved. We just want to be right. And it doesn't matter who loses as long as it's not us. If we're right, then great. If you're right, you're losing. If you're right, you're not loving, you know? And so it's getting into that space and going, okay, here's what I'm feeling. Here's what's happening. Let me open this heart back up and be open. And I'll tell you, I was in a relationship with someone for 4 months too long. It was about 5 months we were in a relationship. And I'm a big withholder, and he was a huge withholder. I mean, it was like myself dating myself. We were super immature, and it was really not fun to date myself like that. But I had to grow, so this was who I vibrated with at that moment. And oftentimes when you look back at your exes, you can do this little exercise, people that you've been with or dated, look back, and when you want to judge them, and you want to go, oh, you were vibrating right there with them. You were wanting what they were offering in some way, shape, or form, so you have to look at your role in that space of it. But it came down to, I don't even remember what happened, but we both got mad at each other, and we were like, fine, I'm not talking. He was like, fine, I'm not talking to you. And I would like to say this was in my like teens or 20s. It was like 4 years ago. So, it was recent. And I was like upset. And so for 3 or 4 days, I'm doing the girl thing, and I'm like, I can't eat. Oh my God, I'm so upset. I don't know what's happening. I just want it to be okay. You know, has any of you ever been in that place?
Yeah.
Yes. But you're like, but I'm not giving in. I'm going to be strong. Oh. Finally, I had a friend who just went, stop. And I was like, what? And she goes, I'm so sick of hearing you like this. And I was like, me too. And I don't know what to do. And she goes, what do you want? What do you want? And I was like, I just wanted to.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Enjoy your date. Okay. So I said, I want it to be okay, and I want him to like me, and I want to keep dating him. And she goes, then go tell him that. And I'm like, what? And she goes, go tell him what you want. And I was like, wait, say that again? That's possible? I'm not talking to him. He's not talking to me. He won't take my call probably. And she goes, don't call him. Go to his place. And I'm like, but what if he doesn't let me in? What if he doesn't open the door? What if he doesn't hear what I want to say? And she's like, then that's his problem. You have to honor what's in your heart, and you have to honor what you want. You have to put that out there. And let me tell you, that is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because when you are coming up against someone who's still so in their anger, so in their withholding, they don't make it easy to be vulnerable. And getting into your heart to find that desire for love, because that's what we have, and we're going to talk about how to connect to that. When we get into our heart and we find that desire for love, and we vulnerably open up and ask for it, we want to be held more than anything else in the world. We want to be held in that moment. And when you're opening up to someone whose heart isn't open to you, oof, it's like pain, right? So here's a trick I learned, maybe this will help you, is as I'm standing there and I knock on the door, right? And I'm like, hey, it's me. I'm busy. He doesn't want to let me in. I'm like, you may know this person. You do know this person. And I said, it'll only take 5 minutes. Just open the door. It'll only take 5 minutes. And he's like, I can hear him panting on the other side. And what? What do you want? And I said, it'll only take 5 minutes. And of course he's like, coming at me, heart closed down. And I'm like, I'm going to stay in my heart. I'm going to stay in my heart. I'm going to keep it open. I'm going to say what I want. I'm just going to put it out there. And I'm just going to be me, because I've got to honor who I am and what I am. And I couldn't, when you reach out to someone's heart to connect it, and it's not open, it makes you want to go, fine. I'm not going to open that to you anyway. I don't need you, right? I don't need you. So the trick in staying in love is to keep that heart open, because what does a star do? If you're not paying attention to the starlight and you're not looking up at the stars, does it stop shining? No. The nature of that star is to shine its light down until it explodes. The nature of your heart is to shine out love. You are the only one in control of it who gets to shut it down. So I kept that little heart open, and I was like, well, you aren't open in your heart, but you know what? I'm in love. I'm going to take this, instead of aiming it directly at you and wanting that back, I'm going to aim it all around the room. He had a couple cute dogs. I'll aim it at your dogs. I'll aim it wherever I'm aiming it, but this is who I am. You don't get to shut my heart down. Only I get to do that, which isn't good either, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, here's what I want. I really care about you. I want us to try this again. I want it to work. I want to own what I've done in this relationship. I want to own my mistakes. I want to apologize for this, this, and this, but I really do care about you. And he was like, what? He'd never had anyone just say it. And he was like, well, I don't know. I mean, this is really awful, and what you did was terrible. And he starts on the attack because he's still in pain. His heart's still closed down. And I kept my heart open, shining it out all around the room, but not to him, because he couldn't meet me with that. And I kept it open, and I said, I understand that you are really upset, and I'm not asking for an answer right now. You don't have to tell me what you want. I want you to take time. I want you to think about what you want. I want you to really feel it out. I am here. I am not going anywhere. And when you decide what you want, you let me know. This is what I want. And I want to be true to who I am. It doesn't matter. I didn't say this, but it doesn't matter what he wanted. It didn't matter. It just mattered that I honored what I wanted. And I can literally see him like staggering backward, because he had never in his 40-something years had anyone show up like that. And he didn't know how to deal with it. And I said, you take your time. So he's like, well, I'll call you later today. And so I leave, and I'm like shaking like a leaf in a storm. It was the scariest thing I'd ever done. I felt so light and so free after I did that. I'm like, woohoo! I owned my heart. I did it. I didn't close it down. Later that night, he calls me. It is the most uncomfortable conversation in the world, because he didn't want to talk about anything. He didn't know how to deal with what was showing up in front of him, right? In that moment of opening my heart, I had shifted my vibration. I had shifted to a new plane, and he had the option to shift with, but he couldn't do it. He didn't have the skills. He didn't choose to. And so in that moment, I simply, what I like to call, emotionally outstripped him, right? And not to brag about that. It's like we do. We emotionally outgrow someone, and that's what happens. And so for like 3 more weeks, we're in this dynamic where it's like there's not real connection, because I don't vibrate with him anymore. It's like a different place. But sometimes the beautiful part is when we keep that heart open and we honor what we want and our partner meets us in that same space. And then you get to go, oh, we vibrate here. Stuff gets to get cleaned up. Things get to get healed. The wounds that we carry from our parents and from those early rejection days, from your mom saying, that's not my baby, I don't want that. From those wounds, we get to heal all of the scars that creates by looking at our wounds with another person, through another person. So how do we, here's the real key. This is so easy to remember. When you are doing the same thing again and again, and you do not like the results, so like relationship pattern. If you have relationships one after the other that aren't working out, you can look and see, well, wow, here's what I do every time something starts to go wrong. Every time something starts to go wrong, I run and bolt and go for the next relationship. That was mine. It may not be yours, but when you can identify that pattern, you consciously do something different. Your relationships will turn on a dime every single time. When you heal the pattern, you heal the wound. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? So if that relationship pattern is like it is with mine is, oh my God, it's uncomfortable, I'm bored, I'm tired, I don't know, I'm done. 2 years is usually my limit. When Mark and I hit our 2-year mark, he was like, so are we about over? I was like, I don't know, you got another day. Let's appreciate today. So, but we did hit that uncomfortable space where I was like, you know, this is a lot of hard work and it'd be so much easier just to not be in it. And I was like, Dana Childs, that's your pattern. Oh my God, you choose something different. I'm staying. I'm not going. You can't run me off this relationship. I am in this thing. Let's figure this out. And everything starts to shift. We start to grow and change. So we find within our soulmates, in that dynamic, we get to find the people that we mesh with. And let's talk about something else. I read this article today online that was written by, I want to say a Y generationer. What age range is that? It's younger, right? It's young. Yeah, it's 20s. Okay, 20s. So I read this article written by a 20-something-year-old about the Y generation, and she was saying, or it might have been a he, I didn't even really look at the name, but saying that the Y generation isn't really capable of love anymore, and they're failing at relationships. And I was like, what the, who, what, how, huh? What are we doing here in this generation where the whole generation thinks they're failing at relationships? What are we teaching or not teaching? What is going on? And I'm trying to feel it out, and I don't even remember like the 12 reasons that this person gave why relationships were failing in the generation. But I'm like, there are so many misunderstandings in there. There are so many misunderstandings. And these patterns where we have that soulmate ideal love, because a lot of our parents in that baby boomer generation, they did stay together for a long time. They didn't divorce easily. If they did, it was a big deal. You were meant to kind of be in it for the long haul. That's how things worked, because that helped the kids survive. Literally helped the kids stay alive, right? 300 years ago, happy ever after was about till you're 32. That was average life expectancy, and then you were dead. So now when we say happily ever after, it's like, okay, so maybe by 30 I've gotten one marriage under my belt and I'm on to the next one. Because what's happening, I think, and what the Y generation maybe doesn't understand, or the person who wrote this article, is everything's moving a lot faster. We're more sensitive, we're more light, we vibrate faster. We're meant to come into relationships to experience a bit of ourselves, to learn, and then if it doesn't grow, it doesn't change, you know what? Let's find that next person who helps us grow and change. Maybe instead of having one, maybe 2 big relationships like our baby boomer parents did, maybe we're meant to have like 5 or 6, and maybe that's going to even expand as we start to move faster as humans. So why are we looking at that as failure in relationships instead of growth? Can we reshape and reformat that? And maybe it's up to the Y generation to find a whole new way to do relationships. Maybe the way of you date, you get engaged, you marry, you stay married, you have babies, you fight, you stay together anyway for the kids, right? Whatever that pattern is, maybe that is done with. Maybe just like Monsanto. Am I saying that right? Like the GMO foods, right? Maybe it's like, okay, and we're done with that. We need to move on and find something that works for us better. Maybe that doesn't work. So maybe it's up to that generation to really find the new way of doing it. And what does that look like and how does that work? How do we become more whole? Because maybe when things were moving slower, we needed 50 years with someone to really figure out all the ins and outs and start to work on our own wholeness. And maybe now we need 10. Maybe with someone we can get 30. Maybe we can get 100 with somebody, but maybe it's different. Maybe things move faster now. Why are we putting relationships in a box and we say they failed if they don't meet a certain expectation? Because the truth is, a relationship has succeeded and anywhere it has made you, taught you more about who you are. Success. So your parents, even though they may have done a crummy job of raising you, somewhere they taught you more about who you are. That equals success. Somewhere they gave you something that serves your being. So the job these days is to look and go, what did they give me? What did they teach me? What coping mechanisms did I develop? Running away, chasing after, enmeshing and saying, oh, I have to be the caretaker and I have to really take care of my parents so that she'll have the energy to love me, because that's a really common pattern too. Where did we develop those things that we are meant to start going, wow, they gifted me with that so that now I can learn to bring that into wholeness. I don't have to take care of anybody to earn love. We're so busy today, I think, trying to win love like it's some kind of thing to scrap for, that we have to fight for, that we have to get approval for. We're trying to win it, when the truth is, it is everywhere. All we have to do is receive it. And let's talk about giving. Sorry, I'm like on a roll. I don't know what's happening here. I'm all preaching. All right, so this idea of giving and receiving. What did your parents teach you about giving and receiving? It's more important to give than to receive, is what my parents always taught me, right? It's more important to give than to receive. So I think it is far easier to give than to receive, right? Think about just buying someone a gift. It is so much easier to go, I got this for you. You're done. Your job is done. Like, it's so easy. Think about receiving a gift. Did anyone have birthday parties where they got gifts, or Christmas where you got gifts and you have to open them in front of people? There is nothing there. Oh my God, that sets me off like anxious, like nobody's business. And one of the best gifts I ever received was from what I call my second mommy, because if you don't like your family, you get to create a new one, right? You do. You get to get your needs met. And so my second mommy, who lives in Charlotte, she would give me a gift, and I'd be like, okay, do you want me to open it? Like, please God, say no. And she'd be like, no, you open it when you're ready. And she gave me this ability to not have to open the gift, because I suck at receiving. I think while giving is so much easier, receiving is really difficult. Think about, how do you receive gifts? How do you receive compliments? Oh my gosh, I used to be like, if someone said, oh, you know how when you date someone, they're like, oh, you're so pretty, or you're so whatever. I'd be like, oh, no, I'm not. You know, here's what's wrong with me. Like, look at this, look at that, I got a pimple here, and I got a, you start pointing out everything that's wrong. And then I'm like, okay, that's really bad, and I need to like shift that for myself. And so then I started, and which sometimes I'll catch myself doing these days, is Mark said to me, I don't know if it was this morning or last night or something, but he was like, you're a really beautiful woman. And I was like, you are so sweet. Do you see what I did there? I didn't shut it down, but I didn't really receive it, did I? I just kind of gave it back to him in a different form. I didn't say, thank you. How hard is it to do that when someone says, I love the color of your hair. I actually want the color of your hair. Right? I just saw you go, I don't know if she means it or not, but I do, and I'm going red. Next week, y'all, I'm going red. So, okay. So it's that idea of, like, we shut down. We can't, how do we take that? When someone says, you are so talented at what you do. You have a way with food. You are talented with words. You are amazing at that. You are so amazing at skincare. Like, it's like you go, right? It's so hard to accept. It's so hard to receive. So let me tell you a secret. We give love. My rock is falling out of my purse. My purse. We give love through the front, through the heart. This is where we stay open and we give. Where do we receive it? Right back in here. Anyone have tight shoulders or this tight space back here? That is your reception device, your receiver for love. That's where you're opened up. So you remember as you were a little girl, we must increase our vows. We should do those again, but we should really do them with, we must open our hearts or whatever. But it's that idea to get back in there or go get a massage. And I would point out the most amazing massage therapist. She's not taking new people, and I don't want to make you guys jealous. So I'm not going to tell you who she is. But get a massage back in this place and like ask them to work back in there so that you can start receiving. Think about those of you who are yogis. I know there are some yogis in here. A lot of people, if you're teaching a class, they get sort of uncomfortable with back bends. Anybody notice that? Like, I hate a back bend, right? Nope, I can't get rid of it. So back bends, it's a stone that fell out of my purse. And I went to put it down, and I heard Spirit say, absolutely not, keep it on your person. So I'm going to put it in my back pocket. So when you do a back bend, if you think about your chakric system, sort of housed mostly in your spine, you are lighting up every one of those discs. That's why back bends give a lot of energy. If you go to a night class, skip it, or you may not sleep well. So if you need an all-nighter, do some back bends. But they really do wake you up, but they really do activate this heart space because it's here, it's in there, right? And so opening up this opens up the receptive channel, and we are far more, as a society, comfortable with giving than receiving, and we have to work on receiving because here's the big thing. So one night Mark and I were at dinner, and I don't remember where we are, but I remember in my mind, you know, it's so weird how the memory works. I remember sitting in a booth, but I have no other memory of where we were. And I will admit, I was pretty grouchy that night. Really grouchy. And I just was like, you know? And we're sitting down, and he said something, and I was like, do you even love me? Do you even care? And he goes, I wanted to punch him, but it was so brilliant. He said, I don't know, are you capable of, do you feel lovable in this moment? And I was like, just shut up, you know? Because as soon as he said it, I was like, no, I don't feel lovable at all. It wasn't about him, it was about me. I was shut down to receiving, and we want to blame the other person when we're shutting ourselves down. We want to make that person the bad person. We want to make it their fault. We want to blame. But really, are we open to receiving? If we can shift that, if you're in the middle of an argument or in the middle of a disagreement, can you just open up and connect in to the desire that lies inside your heart? Because 9 times out of 10, that desire is, I want to feel loved. I want to be loved. I want to be love. That's the desire. And when we connect to that longing, we can stop blaming and we can start being open. And when a partner or someone who loves us, a parent, a child, feels that longing in its true sense, that's when they don't have to be defensive anymore either, because they're not being blamed as the bad other. They're open. That makes sense? If we demand, so if I were to say, Mark, I want to feel loved, hug me. He'd probably do it, but it wouldn't really be warm, you know what I mean? But if I can soften into what I really want and really ask for it in a way that's not demanding because I'm afraid, when we start demanding from a partner, we're typically afraid our needs aren't going to be met. We're afraid of the abandonment, we're afraid of the rejections. We trace that back to childhood or ex-partner. When we can open up into what we really want, and it is, I really need you to hug me in this moment. Who can say no to that? And if they can, then run. but really, it's when we really get into that true longing and we ask for what we want, we get to see, can our partner meet us there? Can they give us what we want? Or are they no longer a match for us? Soulmates, you have thousands. Where are you vibrating? Who are you attracting? And what do you have to learn? Does that make sense? Okay. Questions? Yeah.
Can you speak a little more towards what, like, when you know it's time to go and leave, or when you're just outrunning it? Like,
Yes.
you know when you're learning those lessons and that's where you're supposed to stay, versus, okay, time's up.
Yes. So her question is, how do you know when to leave a relationship versus when are you running away from it? You know, when is it time to leave versus when do you just want to haul out of there and that's not the right time? So I had a client actually ask me that the other day by email. And I said, which I can't remember what I said, but I'm going to try to ask. What I said was something along the lines of, when you want to run away, there's more work to do. Don't go. When you are neutral about the relationship and you're kind of like, I'm done, it's time to walk away. There is a difference between running away and walking away. If you want to run, there's more work somewhere in there. If you're like, it's not that charged anymore one way or the other, your work is complete. If they are abusive or narcissistic, run like hell. You know, it's not, if they're emotionally not capable of giving you what you want in any way, shape, or form, don't stay in that. Does that help? Yeah. And I think it's also important to really trace it back to that pattern. What is the pattern? Is your pattern running? Is it, you know, is it bolting? Is it getting bored? What's the typical pattern for the way a relationship ends? And I think once you identify that, then you recognize where you run, where you like to run. Yeah. A lot of us like to run when it gets like, we have to be more vulnerable, or the person's wanting more from us than we want to give, you know, or we're wanting more than we're getting. And a lot of times I think in this day and age as we do relationships, we like to say, well, they're not giving me what I need. You know, he's not meeting my needs. Are you asking for him? What are you asking for? We like to think that the soulmate, the other, right, the one amongst thousands that we choose from, we like to think that they can read our minds. We like to think that they just know. They know what we like. I've been with him for 10 years or for 2 years. He knows what I like or she knows what I like. And why didn't they do this or why did they do that? They know that's annoying. We are not, even if we're telepathic, we typically don't mind read. It takes too much energy. It's too exhausting. We don't do that. So even if you've lived with someone for 20 years, you still are going to have to ask for what you need because they got their own stuff going on. They're their own person, right? Everybody is a narcissist on some level. Everybody's around their own stuff. That's the main concern for most of the time. So you have to really be out there with what you want. And I learned to identify, like when Mark and I would get in a disagreement, I would just feel so separate. And I really learned that what helped me was if he would, in some way, shape, or form, reach out and touch me. Hold my hand, touch my leg, put your arm on my shoulder, like something. And so I asked him one day, I'm like, hey, when we weren't fighting, because this is the best time to lay rules, right? When you're not fighting, is, you know, when we are disagreeing or something's happening, this is what really helps me be able to stay in the moment and be in my heart is when you touch me. And he goes, that is the hardest thing to do. And I'm like, I know, I really need you to do that. Like that would really help me. And so he has to work with what's hard for him, and I have to work with what's hard for me because I'd rather not be there. I'd rather go, fine, I'm going to bed. That's the way I like to deal with things, run away. And so we have to really, what helps us stay, and then what helps him stay and what helps him open, you know, what helps him in the fight is being able to talk about it, being able to flesh through it. That's really hard for me, but I want to give that, but here's what I need in order to give that. So we have to identify what helps us, and then we have to ask for it. Even when you're feeling connected, you're walking along and you want to feel more connected, I will still, to this day, ask, hey, will you hold my hand right now? Will you touch me right now? And he's like, sure. Ask for what I need. I don't want to be walking along being like, it'd be nice if he'd hold my hand, you know? What good does that do? It's like, I'm going to get pissy, then I'm going to be short with him, and I'm going to blame him for being the bad other, and I'm going to blame him for myself not feeling loved, when in truth is, I blame myself because I didn't ask for what I needed. How can he give it? I don't know. He's thinking about where we just came from or how bad the food was, or maybe he has gas. I don't know. But I have to ask for what I need. So in your relationships, look at the power that holds, because a lot of times we assume they should know what we want. They do not, and they will not, and they will never. Your mom, your dad, they oftentimes will not know what you need. I called my dad, it was probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and I am such a daddy's girl, and he's always been the one who really is there for me. And my mom's like, I don't know, I'm sure you can figure it out. You know, and my dad's like, okay, baby, let's talk about this. And so I called him and talking about something, and I could feel him kind of get quiet, and he goes, well, I'm really sorry, baby. I don't even know what to tell you. I don't have any advice for you. I wish I could fix it. And I was like, ooh. I was like, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen. I needed to tell him what I needed so he didn't then judge himself about how he loved me. So when we tell people what we need, we're able to connect on a more intimate level. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it becomes hard to tell your parents what you need because you think they should know. They're your parents. They should so know what you need. They don't. They are so clueless as to what you need. You have to really tell them. And I want to for a minute kind of go back to the trace of psychology that we did, where psychology is rather a new art. Our parents, most of our parents anyway, didn't grow up with a whole lot of knowledge about psychology, and so they didn't really get comfortable talking about emotions. You know, these days it's like, how do you nurture your kids? How do you nurture their self-esteem? How do you talk to them about feelings? My parents didn't do that. Did yours? Yeah, it was like, I don't know, go to your room and shake it off. Get over it. Keep moving. My dad did institute what we call the child's rule, which is 3 days. So he gifted me this because this is the way we learn to deal with emotions is, I know that you're upset about this. You have 3 days to be as upset about this as you want. And then after 3 days, you gonna get over it. And that was it. And I was like, okay. That may not be sufficient for some things, I'm just saying. That may not be the best coping strategy. But when we don't really know, we kind of grasp at whatever we have. And our parents didn't sit and study psychology. They didn't know all this. So it's easy to sit and judge them for how they might have messed up. But they didn't have what we have. And we're messing up our kids too. So it's all going to kind of get worked out in the shuffle, right? But really kind of start to understand your parents. If you look back and you go, okay, I had an abusive, like a physically abusive situation. That you don't have to forgive that, you know? But let's look at where can we find compassion in that space, and where do we go, where did they learn it from? We don't have to forgive, but we have to look at where did they learn it from? How did they learn to parent? What kind of fears and thoughts were driving that behavior? Does that make sense? And we can understand it, and we can understand ourselves through it so that we don't pass it on. So that we don't keep it perpetuating, right? So that we don't have an abusive father and then we, as a woman, we date an abusive male. That we don't have to perpetuate that when we can find compassion for it, heal it within ourselves, come into wholeness, and shift it in a different direction. Make sense? All right. Questions? Yeah. Ask it.
Put it out here, but it's the parent thing.
Okay.
When you know these things about your, and you know the nutrition, I'm so glad you brought the nutrition thing up. So have food allergies, and I realized all this, and I know where she kind of came from, and she shut down, and I know we're supposed to love and nurture ourselves, and I know all this stuff, but I still have food allergies.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can answer that, but and maybe I don't take enough time to get that in. Maybe I stay too busy.
So, well, you know yourself, because that is a truth for you. I think you all know that busy place. We like to get busy when we don't have really great coping mechanisms. We like to stay busy because we don't have to feel it. When we're in families that are kind of dysfunctional, we like to stay really busy because then we don't have to be in that mess. Yeah. Yeah.
Just talked with someone from recently, and they said, I hear you keep saying you understand why you feel this stuff. You analyze, and hey, and my friends and family will say I'm the most emotional person they've ever met.
Right.
But at the same time, I do. I'm like, well, I know I feel this way because of this and this and this. But the lady told me, she said that you're obviously not taking time to really feel it.
Yeah. Yes. So let's talk about that. So did you guys hear her? She's like, she is emotional and she understands logically why this is happening, but like feeling it, how is she not feeling it? She thought she's feeling it, but her allergies aren't going away. So what is happening here? And what your spirit was saying as you were talking is there's two different really answers to this. And one is if we look at like a fertilized pot of soil and we plant a seed in there, the seed is planted. The seed is planted in here. It is a logical explanation. We start to water it. All plants grow at a different rate and speed. So that seedling, it may take a year or two to grow. It may take 2 weeks to grow. But we are watering it, and we are watering it, and we are watering it. Water is emotion. That's going to land with you, yes? Water is the emotional element, so it helps things move and grow. So we keep watering it, We've planted the seed of the thought, which is where a lot of us hang out because we learned that intellect is important and intellect is accepted and just don't feel it, but you can know it all day long. We have to keep watering that seed. So we are being planted with ideas that we keep watering. The emotional growth will happen when we're ready and when we give time and space to it. Now, your spirit is, that's one piece, but the other piece your spirit is saying is there is the fear of fully getting into the body and feeling the emotions because then you won't know how to fix it. How do you get out of it if you really feel it? Does any of you ever get scared of going into an emotion because you're like, that's a deep, dark one. I'm not going in there because I'll never get out of that hole again. It's that. We fear that. The truth behind emotions is they're temporary. Everything, we're temporary. Emotions are temporary. Relationships are temporary. Dogs are temporary. Right? I'm gonna get it up. So it's this. Everything is temporary. And when you can really look at that emotion as temporary, we can stop holding it at bay. We want to hold it at bay. We want to hold it up here because it's safe up here. When it gets in our body, we may not know what to do with it. The truth about emotion is you don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix it or solve it or change it. You have to honor it and then allow it. How do we get rid of an emotion we don't like? We go into it. And there's a visual that your spirit's kind of opening up. And if you can imagine sitting and opening up into the emotion that's there, right? The sadness that's there, or the anger that's there, or the frustration, or the hurt, or the disappointment, whatever's there that you stay busy to avoid. Yeah. Imagine it sitting in your heart space, because that's where it's sitting. We keep busy so we don't have to have it time to settle in, right? And it's like you close your eyes and you come out in front of your heart and just visualize yourself turning back around to face your heart, and your heart is a pool of water. Dive into it. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Dive into it. Swim around. See what's in there. Look at it. Pick it up. Feel it. Touch it. Let it sink. Let it float. Let it go. Feel it and sit with it and let it go. But we are like rats in a cage, in a maze, when we try to avoid what we know is there anyway.
Yeah, because once again, I was feeling stuff welling up, going in there a little bit. I'm like, but we're only here for a little while, and I know she will be fine on the other side when we see each other. And, and I'm wanting to, but I guess.
Yeah, and that is true. Like, you will be fine on the other side when you see each other, but what about you now? What are you carrying now from that relationship that gets in the way of what you're doing, that gets in the way of your health, that gets in the way of being fully in your heart because you're staying so busy to stay out of there because you're afraid of what might be there? We can, who was this? Khalil Gibran, the prophet, that said we can, I bastardized quotes because I can't remember them, but I gave you the general idea. We feel as much sadness as we feel joy. We are capable of feeling as much joy as we are capable of feeling as much sadness. Get in there and swim around that heart and feel what's there so that we can start to feel both. Because if we're feeling this much, great. But if you can start to feel this much, even better, and this much, even better. We want the levels of experience. That makes sense? Yeah, and that visual meditation is a really powerful one. It can really unlock stuff, and it can help you move through things really fast so that you don't have to sit. Because the whole point of the love space, being loved and wanting to be loved, that's really the core desire when you get down to it. And we're often so afraid to feel the wounds of that desire that we begin to lose touch with the desire itself. I don't even know what I just said. But it felt sad. Whatever I just said felt sad to me. So if we lose touch with that desire, what do we want? You know, what are we but a big gaping hole looking for something to fill us up? Can I buy enough stuff? Can I do enough yoga? Can I date enough men? Can I have enough sex? Can I work out enough? Can I get enough massage? Can I do enough to fill up that hole that exists because I'm afraid of looking at the desire that is existing naturally in my natural state of who I am because it's been wounded? Okay. Yeah.
And
don't even know how to say it. I have like so many different thoughts in my mind, but
I relate.
and
But puppies is what I always
so
come
it's
back
like
to.
I feel like I'm in a relationship or relationship with people, and I feel like I almost feel like I get trapped in it, and then it sucks me out. Like my energy gets sucked out. That I'm like thinking there's something wrong with me, so I'm trying to fix me. It's like a codependent relationship.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, maybe it's just me. I'm doing this. So there's nothing wrong with them. It's about me. But I feel like it's a cycle. And it's almost like I'm stuck in the trap.
Yeah, that's your pattern,
Yeah.
right? So recognizing the pattern is that you feel stuck in that trap, and it's like when you're dating someone, I'm repeating the question, that when you're dating someone, you feel like you get sucked out. And your spirit's showing boundaries, A, and B, let's trace that back to your parental relationships. I feel like you had to fight for every scrap of love you got. Does that resonate with you and your family? Yeah, it's really sad that sometimes we do. We have to let me take care of my mom so she'll have enough energy to give back to me. Let me make sure that I am making good grades and doing the right thing so that my family is proud of me and they love me. If they approve of me, they love me, and then I'm getting my needs met. We, from the time we're toddlers, try to get our needs, infants, we try to get our needs met. We cry, right? And then we scream and complain, and then we tug, and then we complain some more, right? We grow up and we're like, I don't know, I need love, so what do you want me to do? You want me to play football? You want me to be a cheerleader? You want me to do whatever? Yoga? I'll do it. You want me to be like you? I'll do it. I'll do it because that's how I get approval. So I feel like you grew up, I hear scrappy, just like scrapping for every bit of love that you got. And so now your pattern is, I have to fight for every scrap of love I get. So we need to step into that place of this divine being that you are, who deserves love because you're born, you deserve love because you're there. And when you start to recognize that, and you start to recognize that doesn't come from outside of you, because that's the other piece that's at play here, is you feel like you are lovable only when someone loves you. That is like, if this is our chakra, our third chakra, and it looks like a pie, and we cut a piece of that pie out, and we scoop it out, and we go, here you go. I need your approval, hold that. Now I am not whole, and I do not have access to my full power because you have it. If she likes me, we are so good, right? As soon as she goes, she doesn't know what she's talking about, I don't like her, what am I gonna do? Who am I? I'm not what I thought I was. I'm not who I thought I was going to be. Give me that piece of pie back and put it in there. Now I'm good again, right? I don't care if she likes me or not. I do really. I love you. So it's that aspect of recognizing that someone else doesn't hold your wholeness. You hold your wholeness.
Okay. So why do we give it away?
We give it away because we learn from our parents that we have to give it away. We have to win their love because remember, parents aren't conditional. So how could Noah, today when I bought him a set of 10 DVDs that is a rapping hamster to help him remember his multiplication tables, how could he have won my love in that moment? Thank you so much. Yeah, and that's what I taught him. You should be more grateful. Pull that away. I'm going to go get myself some water, right? So then he learns, that's what I need to be, instead of learning his true self, which is, I'm not grateful, but I care less about a singing hamster. That's his true self, right? We learn to please and to give what we need to earn that love. And stepping out from that and allowing ourselves politeness and sensitivity, but in being and honoring our true self, we have access to love all the time. So I want you to feel it in your bodies. Do you guys want to do that? All right. So just sit. As if I'll be such a good dog owner. I'm practicing already. Sit. All right. I know, I'm working so hard at it. It's happening. All right, so if you just want to take root of your body, what does that mean? Take stock of your body and just feel what you're feeling in there so that you know, right? I want you to really connect to the body, not the mind. So, feeling the heart space. Now, I want you to think about someone that you have a grievance with, someone that isn't loving you the way you think you should be loved. Some sort of harm, wound. Think about that, and I want you to feel your body. Take note of what happens in your body. Now, I want you to think about what you ultimately want and need from this person or thing or place to feel loved, and imagine him, her, it giving what you need, and then how does that feel in your body? Can you feel the shift? Okay. And now what I want you to do is take this person who you think is giving this to you and take them completely out of the picture. And I want you to access your heart and just the way you feel loved, what happens to your body when you feel loved. The way you feel right now, loved and held and heart open, is what you are giving to yourself. Your bodily experience has nothing to do with this other person. This is your experience. This experience emanates from you tapping into yourself, loving yourself. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back out of your body and into well, stay in your body if you want you to stay there, but you can come back into the room. So that when we recognize that what we want to feel, we have the capacity to feel that all the time if we close our eyes and we just tap in there. We just feel it. If someone's not giving us something, we don't have to win and fight for that approval. We have to go inside and go, where's my connection to myself? Because when I have that, I don't really need anything from anybody else. That bodily experience is always yours. We want to be held by someone, right? We want to be loved by someone. Ultimately, we want to feel what it is to receive love. There is love all over the place. When I saw that French bulldog poking its head outside of that truck window, oh my God, my heart just melted. I could never have touched that dog, but I did. And the French bulldog, and my heart just like melted. And the truth is, if I sit here and I close my eyes and I don't have that bulldog, but I think about that feeling, it's still there. It's in there. I have that. I don't need that bulldog. I think I'm talking myself out of a dog now. I better stop this. Right? But I don't need that. It's what I need. That feeling of love, that feeling of cuteness is already there. You don't have to fight for it. When you are in a relationship in which you feel like you are fighting for every scrap of love and approval, start reevaluating why you feel like you have to do that. What's your self-worth? What's your self-value? And how do you start to shift that pattern? How do you recognize that you deserve more and that you're already full and whole without someone else? Because we are. Someone else just helps us see the other wounds that we want to knock down. The truth is we could all be single the rest of our lives. It wouldn't be as much fun, right? Wouldn't be as much fun, but it could be, because we're all whole beings. And our worth and value would be the exact same. If my parents came up to me tomorrow and said, we really don't love you anymore, I would grieve that. That would really hurt and sting, and I am sure I would need some more therapy and definitely need a dog. But I would ultimately see, like, I am still me. I still have access to love. I am not any different because someone doesn't love me. Yeah. When we need to be held, we really need to be connected to self and held with self. And when we can do that, then we're able to do it really easily with someone else.
Can I ask you a crazy
Yeah,
question?
do.
All right. You know, like twin flame,
Twin flame.
Right?
Yep.
So, what is your opinion about that?
Okay.
And do you think that that is like the part of us that stays behind and like guides us through life, or what do you think? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Okay, so she's asking me about twin flame and twin soul, and what's my opinion? Do I think that they come and they can meet on Earth, or do I think one stays behind and holds the space while one comes and experience, right? Or are we just whole? So I have a real problem with twin flame. And this may be controversial, and again, I teach where I am. I don't teach pure truth. I don't know what pure truth is, and this whole life I probably never will. So whatever I say that resonates, great, take it. Whatever I say that doesn't resonate, leave it. It doesn't matter. Go find your own truth. So this for me is really just my own truth. And I just can't make myself believe in twin flame. And I had someone come to me the other day and they said, oh, someone said that I am with my twin flame and this is the person.
Can we say what twin flame
Oh,
is?
so it's like the ultimate soulmate. It's like the other half of who you are. It's supposed to be
You're
the other.
never complete until you find it.
Yeah, that is like your other half, your completion, your ideal, amazing, most relationship ever.
It's like masculine, feminine. Like if you're in the feminine,
Yes, where the
then
energy
masculine
comes.
is somewhere else. Right?
Yes.
And some people think it's held like in,
In the heavens or
which
in
is
spirit
true.
world. Yes. Yes. I think that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. You asked, right? So if you want to believe in that and it makes you feel good, by all means, like, hold it. I struggle because it is out there as a theory, and people really do believe that we hold the half of what we are. And when I look at souls and I look at spirits who have crossed over, and I'm talking to spirits who have crossed over, because that is one of the other things that I do, they talk about incarnations where they have been male and female. Angels really have an energy that's not male or female. It's really androgynous. They take the shape that they need. And so feeling those, I come back to this theory of twin flame, and I struggle with it. I mean, we can maybe hold more feminine energy than masculine, or more masculine energy than feminine, or in this incarnation, or we can have an overall spirit who really enjoys one more than the other, or not. But I think when we look at twin flame, for me, it makes me feel like I'm not whole, and I do not buy that for a flat second. I can't buy the idea of not being whole and complete in my own self, in my own connected self.
Right.
When I am disconnected, I am not whole. And I just, I don't buy it. Source.
Right.
Yeah, source. And so, I don't know, is source the twin flame?
Right.
I don't know. I really, so I can't give you a flat out answer.
I say yes.
Do you say yes? Yeah, I just, I don't believe in
What
twin
is like
flame.
the greater half, of the greater part of you? The greater part of your soul.
Right.
That's like what I.
So if you're saying like source
Source.
could be that twin flame, greater part of you, that makes you whole. Could be.
Yeah, and you are whole anyway.
Yeah, but we carry that divine spark. We're never
Right.
separated from
Never.
source. We only think we are, which is where our pain comes in, suffering comes in. When we think we're separated, we can't have energy in our body if we're not connected to divine spark, life spark, right? It's why ghosts or darker energy has to hang around and suck the life force off of us. They don't have that spark. They're not in a living incarnation. They can't connect to source in that moment. So maybe, I don't know, twin flame just feels like a charged word to me. Can you tell?
Yes.
I think that takes away from our self-empowerment. It makes us feel like there's something else I need to be whole.
Well, I feel like
I don't buy it.
does. I think that's the same. Soulmate sounds the same.
Yeah, and that's why I think soulmate,
I am myself because I'm
Right.
myself.
Yeah,
And
but
you're
connected
awesome.
to your source.
but I think soulmate has
Just
to be
having to marry this
shifted to
guy.
be a teacher. Soulmate is a teacher. Soulmate isn't a part of us that's missing. It's a part of us that helps see where we're wounded. Where are we blocking love?
But
That's
maybe
the
because so many people think you have one source.
yes,
Versus
yes,
thousands, female, male, dogs, whatever.
yes, yeah, makes sense. So where are we on time?
It's like 7. It's crazy.
It's 8:39. Is it? I did start late. Okay. So do we? Is there any one last question? Something burning that you didn't get? Yeah.
Yes. Can you speak to the pace of relationships?
Yes.
New relationships.
Yes. What a good
So
question.
in meeting people, and say you're a really fiery person,
Yeah.
you get a little overwhelmed by your own.
Yeah. So she's asking about pace of relationship. How fast should it move? How fast should it not move? Help understand that. And it's funny because I had a session the other day with someone who was talking about, she was judging herself. This is what we do, right? There's a difference between discernment and judging. If you're discerning, you're really setting up what works for me, what doesn't work for me. When you're judging, you're berating or beating yourself up. Judgment is never going to serve you or anyone else. We do it when we're afraid. We judge ourselves when we're afraid or other people when we're afraid. So if you're judging someone, you're afraid of something. What are you afraid of? If you're judging yourself, you're afraid of something. What are you afraid of? Ask that question. You can step yourself back out of judgment. So when we look at, she was judging herself because she was like, I haven't been dating him very long. I mean, just really a short time. I don't remember how long because I don't remember these things. And I don't really remember who it is at the moment, but she was talking about how she didn't, hadn't been dating him long, and so she just felt like she shouldn't be as upset as she was because it wasn't going to work out. And what her spirit really explained, which made total sense to me, is that we have grown up in baby boomer generation. It's all about time, right? It's all about you should date for this long, you should be engaged for this long, you should be married for this long. And in this change of the way the world spins, everything happens very fast. We have more light within us. We are more sensitive. We move faster. We understand things faster. We move into feeling and emotion faster. So it can be really fast. And especially if you're in tune with what you feel, it can be you can have really quick recognition of feelings. And I want to talk about, for a moment, because we are talking about relationship, I want to talk about love and the words I love you. Does anybody ever struggle with, when do I say it? Does he say it first? Does she say it first? Anybody ever have that little war in their head? God, me too. It's exhausting. So we do that because we attach this amazing, heavy significance to I love you. It must mean so much. The truth is, energetically, it's there or it's not there. It isn't unconditional. We've already established that. So it might be there one day and it might not be there the next. So do we honor what we're feeling and say it or not? But the truth is, it's there. You recognize it's there. You might have just met this guy 10 minutes ago and you might feel it, and you might not want to be the crazy lady who goes, I love you, right? Because there is a social etiquette piece that we need to be aware of. But you can honor your own self and your own feelings and recognize this is a connection that feels good. I want to honor the energy around this, and I'm not going to attach that to time. Because time doesn't really exist if you want to get really scientific about it and Einsteinian about it. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Time is on this continual loop where we can access everything all at one time because it's not real. It just kind of loops and does all this figure eight stuff, and it doesn't exist on a linear plane like we like to think it does. Right? So have you ever had someone say, oh, your past life, this was this, this, this? I'm like, yeah, that's probably happening now. Like, it's all simultaneous, ultimately, because there is no time delineation. So why do we want to then judge our emotions and our feelings by time? Because we're scared of the emotions and feelings. So we have to have time to help it make sense.
Why do we do that?
Because we're human, and because we didn't grow up with honor your feeling. What you're feeling right now, honor that. Whose parents said that to them? Mine sure didn't. Mine said, we're not going to feel that today. That's what mine said. Yeah, so we didn't learn that. So then when we have emotions, we go to this default space of, oh, I shouldn't be feeling that. We judge ourselves, and then we try to shut it down. And then we get disconnected. When we disconnect from our feelings, we're disconnected from our body because our feelings sit in our body. And so then we disconnect from our body. When we disconnect from our body, we are disconnected from this baby right here, this heart. We disconnect from that. When we're disconnected from that, guess what sits in there? Source. We're disconnected from source when we're disconnected from the heart. So in speaking of the heart, if you envision your heart, you might envision some things in your heart. It might be your animals. It might be your dream animal, your baby llama. It might be your Clumber Spaniel. It might be your baby. It might be your daughters. It might be your lover or your spouse or your mom or your dad. Probably not in America. But if we were in Thailand, it very well would probably be your mom and dad. Different culture. Really, what should be in your heart if you have healthy boundaries? It's yourself and your source. That's it. And if you don't believe in a source, yourself. That's it. When we have more in there, it gets really clouded. When we have that connection, we have access to our feelings. When we can feel our feelings without judgment and just allow them, that's when we're moving into power. Yeah. So you're feeling something, honor the feeling. Because you know what? It's temporary. And we might get to renew it. There's this song, and I can't remember the name of it, but I love it because he says, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to remember that I love you all over again. So he's not like, he's going to bed every night going, I love you now, we'll see about this in the morning. But then he wakes up and he's staying current with what he feels and that emotion. And we can't bake that down to time. How would that make sense? If our parents want us to believe that time is the answer, right? Because a lot of them do. Don't decide yet if you like him. Wait. Especially dads, right? Wait for a long time till you want to marry that guy. Yeah, we want to break it down to time. But the truth is, you could come back with, but when I was born, you loved me. After you got over the initial rejection of me, you loved me. We love babies instantaneously. There's no time in that. How does that happen? Because it's an emotion that we don't judge because it's accepted and it's expected. So allow your emotions to be what they are. Yeah. We can discern, but we don't have to judge. Makes sense? Okay. You guys doing all right? So I've kept you a little bit late, but I started a little bit late, so I owed you, really, right? So I am gonna let you go, but I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I am offering on July 19th. It's a Sunday. I think it's from 1 to 4:30. It's in South Park. A workshop on relationships, how to communicate better, how to really identify your own patterns, how to get in there, how to dig in, all those things. It's 1 to 4:30, and there's free swim and tennis too. So if you're interested, that's on the website, which you're welcome to look up. I think my cards are here somewhere, and I've got some in my bag. But other than that, any last questions? Anything, you guys? You guys are good? All right. So hopefully this shed you some insight. Yeah, do you have something? Do it.
Well, because I guess talking about more light coming into us, us being more sensitive, but it's to get stuff out. I guess we become more sensitive because we need to get stuff out.
Yeah. Well, and what we're holding on to is probably those denser things and those wounds and those beliefs and those patterns that don't really serve us. So to be more light, to have it in, we have to get rid of that. You know, everybody's talking about the Ascension Symptoms. I don't know if you guys have seen articles on that, but the Ascension Symptoms are people walking around, might be you, and they're like, I feel kind of sick, like I feel like I'm getting something, but I'm not getting something, but I feel like I have a cold, but I don't have a cold. I had a fever for like 10 minutes, but now I don't. My stomach feels off, but now I'm fine. You can't really explain it. So it's an Ascension Symptom. And what's happening is we're trying to shed those old wounds and those old cells that hold those memories that we don't want, that we don't need, that don't serve us. And as we're trying to get rid of them and this higher vibration is trying to come in, a lot of us are feeling it symptomatically. Yeah, I mean, you can Google Ascension Symptoms and you will come up with a whole lot of articles. Did that answer your question?
It did, and somebody just told me, just gave me the website or where to.
Oh, good.
like
Okay.
yesterday, so
Yeah.
it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
So,
that's a piece of it for you. Yeah. All right, so hopefully this has helped. I will give you the name of a book in case any of you are readers, because I'm the English teacher and me just can't go without homework. But there is a book called Perfect Love, Imperfect Relationships. It's by a man named John Wellwood, and it is really psychologically sound and phenomenal and goes back into, you know, where we seek from our partners the wounds that happened in our childhood, because that's what we do, isn't it? We so do it. And it really breaks that down for us. And it's an amazing read, an amazing book. And he really gives some exercises about how to get rid of the grievances in your heart. And he has a quote in there, which I'll misquote. But it is something like, when we don't honor, see, I'm already messing it up. When we don't grieve, it becomes a grievance. Think about that, right? If you don't grieve the fact that maybe your mom was imperfect and she didn't give you what you needed and loved you when you needed, then the grievance becomes, I am not loved by whoever I'm with. You don't love me in this moment because you're not making my dinner, right? I may have had that grievance once or twice. It's cook for me. So we really want to, that book is just, it's amazing, and it will really kind of help. Yeah.
1146 on Amazon.
Oh, there you go. And do you guys have any copies of that book in here, John Wellwood? Okay, yeah. So they'll have it really soon in here too, if you want it like in your hands really fast. So I will leave you with that if you want more resources, and I just so appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you so much. Yay. So hopefully we'll have this up and out. I'll send the link through the newsletter, but we'll have this out, and I'm counting on my technology person to help me. I'll get you a puppy if you help me. So hopefully it'll be out there if you guys want to say it. Yes, my puppy's so well. Thank you.